Hello and welcome. This is going to be a special edition today, and I can tell you absolutely, proof positively, that I am excited to have this discussion today. And as many of you know, Coach Serrano is in season with Johnson University. So, his time is precious at traveling over the weekend. And today, our guest is going to be someone who I've had tremendous respect for over 2 decades. And I get a lot of emails and messages about my disdain for travel baseball, and nothing could be further from the truth. And so I thought I would reach out to someone that I consider to be one of the founding fathers of what we refer to today as travel baseball. And that is Andy Partin with the Dirtbags. I don't know, Andy, if we're called the Evo Dirtbags, the Dirtbags, help me, but thank you for joining us today and welcome aboard, Captain.
I'm fired up to be here. It's just Dirtbags is good.
Dirtbags.
Yeah, this will work out good because I just got off Joe Rogan's podcast, and I've got Caleb Presley's Sunday Conversation coming up. So it's fitting that we're doing this now.
So I'm going to help you prepare for your upcoming podcast. But Andy, I really want to start this whole thing by talking about, you have been around since what I call the birth of travel baseball. Take us back to what made you start the Dirtbags, and kind of talk to us a little bit about what it used to be back in the origins of your days with travel baseball.
Yeah, I just got into it. I started coaching at 18, and I just really enjoyed coaching. So then I started something. Well, let me go backwards a little bit. The guy I was coaching with in high school, he sent me a message, and you'll remember this, Team One.
Oh yeah.
Jeff Spellman and Anoop Sina, and this is probably a lot of your listeners don't remember them, but to me they were like the earliest ones. I know Perfect Game was doing some stuff back then. I don't know that it was more than a tournament at that point, but I just don't remember. But he sent me something about Team One, and it was a kid on our team that we coached in high school, and he was listed in the North Carolina section of prospects, and they had a little blurb about him. And I thought, man, that is super cool. I think that's really cool because, hey, I coached that kid. We all want a little piece of that. And so at the time I was living in Greenville, North Carolina, 1-bedroom apartment. And I was going to Pitt Community College. I was going to be a teacher. I was going to be a coach. That's what I wanted to do. And so I started a publication called Carolina Prospects. I don't want to take up too much of your list. I don't want to bore everybody, but I did Carolina Prospects, and I did the same thing as Team One, but it was just for kids that I knew. And I listed kids, and back then there was no social media. This is 2000, 2001. So there was no social media, but there were chat boards. Do you remember School Baseball Web? Is that what it was called?
Baseball Web.
Yeah, I don't know if they're still around or not, but that was kind of where all the eyeballs were. And so I didn't know what that was. Somebody shared that with me, but I'll try to go a little faster here. But so we started, tried to learn as much as possible, through that, kind of like what's going on. So I had this Carolina Prospects thing, and we did a showcase. I didn't know what that was. I had to go to the state games in North Carolina just to watch what a pro style workout was in 2000. And I didn't know any college coaches at that time. And so I met a couple of guys and told them what I wanted to do. And they said, man, go for it. And that's kind of how it started. Then it kind of grew legs, became Impact Baseball. But the coaching side of it, came next. It was the next year in 2002 when I started the Dirtbags. And, I've always loved coaching. Obviously I love baseball. And it was like, how can I continue to do this? So I'm riding around. I'm watching over 150 games in the spring. So I'm identifying a ton of players to put on my list. And so I've got this long list of like good players. And back then there was no teams. There was no tournaments. There was no teams. There was nothing. And I'm like, well, outside of the Greater Raleigh Fall Baseball League, maybe somebody from that area would remember that name, Ken Shuey. Paul Shuey's dad ran that. But outside of really nothing in the state. There was a guy named Lou Weatherspoon and a guy named Freddie Suggs. Shout out to those guys. They were before me. And then Mike Schilt and I kind of came on board. Mike Schilt's the manager of the Padres, for anybody that doesn't know. He had On Deck. And we kind of started at the same time. I had this list of kids, so I invited these kids to come play. And they, it was very easy. All of them said yes. There was no teams. So everyone was looking to play. Adam Warren, who played in the major leagues for years, with the Yankees, look him up. He was on that first team. He wasn't even going to play. I had to talk him into playing fall baseball. Like nobody even played fall baseball back then. So that was so much fun. Cameron Maven was on that team. He's a longtime big leaguer. So we had some really, really good players, but there was nobody to play. And to kind of answer your question earlier, like what's the difference? There's so many teams today. Back then, there was no teams and there was nowhere to play. So I had to start my own tournaments. So, but you're like, okay, let's go play games at North Carolina and Duke, but there's no teams. So once we started having some success, I put it online on our website. I mean, as far as I know, I'm the first person to start, promoting players online, through a website. And I started, kind of recognizing, guys' accomplishments and things like that. And then it kind of slowly, here comes another team. Here comes another team. Okay, cool. Now we got some teams to play. So that's kind of how it started. But bottom line, I love helping people. And if I can do that through baseball, then that's great. And that's kind of what I've been doing for 20 plus years now. But I love baseball. I love helping kids, and been successful at it, up to this point.
Well, I mean, one of the biggest topics that I really want parents to understand is kind of what you just alluded to. Really mid 2000s, say 4 or 5, is really when what I call the ramp up began with regard to Andy Ford, the Ford family, Jerry Ford, them looking in saying, okay, we got to get these tournaments together. But really, during that time period of 05 through 2015, would you agree that travel baseball back then was really the elite of the elite from East Coast to West Coast? And that's really where the college coaches began to kind of navigate their way to find themselves at those games, right? That was kind of the mecca at that point.
100%. I remember in 05 and 06, we went to Atlanta to the WWBA. It was like 40 teams, but all the teams were good. Right. I remember going to the underclassmen in Fort Myers back in, I think it was 04 or 05. Again, it's like 40 teams. We went back-to-back years of finishing in the Final Four, in Jupiter and in Fort Myers with those teams that we had. So but it was the elite. It was the best of the best. There was no, now you go to these tournaments and they've got 300 or 400 teams in there. And you're really, they've got it's kind of a disaster. I don't want to get too far into it, but the team wise, there's so many teams that really have no business playing somebody, like an ABD of back in the day.
Right.
When those teams were stacked. Could you imagine one of these C-level teams playing that team? Nothing's getting accomplished, but yeah, it really was awesome back then. And now you've really got to weed through, so many teams, and they just keep popping up. It's people like us, that have been around, that kind of withstood the test of time, just throughout the years. We're still here. But there's a lot of new teams that pop up, and a lot of them kind of fizzle out. But I think the intentions are good. I think most people, they actually want to help kids. They just don't know how. And there's really not but so many organizations in the country that really do a good job. That can actually help kids.
So I want to kind of expand on that point. So my point, when I'm talking with parents, if we take all 50 states and we put all the high school student athletes, there really are only maybe, let's call it 50. And that's being really, I would say, I'm being generous there. 50 programs that have the ability to not only work with and develop, but to offer candid, honest feedback, which is really important when you're talking about student athletes that have a desire to be a participant at the college level.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What exactly was the question? I'm sorry.
So I wanted to kind of expand upon the point that not every travel program
Oh,
can
right.
help a student athlete
Yeah,
playing
kind of what
college.
we were talking about. Yeah, what we
Right.
were talking about before we started recording was you've got so many organizations out there that they want to tell mom and dad and the kid what they want to hear, to try to get them on board. And then once they get them on board, maybe they're not always telling them exactly what they need to hear because they want to try to keep them. Now, I understand. I mean, and I respect that. They're trying to, from a business standpoint, we don't want to start, having a bunch of churn, losing kids. That's not a good look, and it hurts, especially if you've got employees and things like that. But you've got to be honest with people, and I think in the long run, that's why we're still here, and that's why certain organizations are still here because we are truthful, and we do offer good advice and we do educate, and we're constantly learning. And we've got to continue to adapt. Obviously the rules are changing in college baseball and the recruiting. I love the new rule now, with kids not being able to basically get recruited until, was it August 1 of their junior year? Wonderful, wonderful. And I've got a son that's a 2027. Now, I think one day he'll probably get recruited. So, but it's great from a parent standpoint. Now I can see it like, well, my kid can barely talk to adults. A lot of these kids I'm coaching at 15 years old, I mean, they have trouble talking to adults. I'm not saying anything bad, but they're just young. So we try to help them with that type of stuff. So I can't imagine my son trying to talk to a bunch of college coaches and make this tough life decision at 14, 15 years old. But it has happened over and over again. So I'm sorry, I kind of got off track there, but yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of these guys that they want to help people. They just don't know how.
So talk to me a little bit about your development process. I mean, how, for
Yeah.
the amount of games that you play, talk to us about the Dirtbag development model as far as what you're providing for student athletes and families with regard to really understanding what it truly takes to be a college caliber student athlete.
Right. So people ask us all the time, the younger people, 14 years old, where do we practice? Well, we don't have team practice during the week, as an organization the size of ours, because our kids are so spread out. We don't have like a pocket, and we got all our kids are from Greensboro. That's just not how it works. We may have kids from Asheville to Wilmington, North Carolina on the same team. So kind of our process, and we've done a lot of trial and error over the years. We'll try this, we'll try this, we'll try that, just to see what works. Now it's got to be a blend, and this is my opinion, and this is kind of what we do. It's got to be a blend of development. Obviously the exposure side. We like to have some experience in there, and then obviously we got to have the competition. So we like to do the development side. We have to go play some organized games. Okay. And if you ask mom and dad and the kid, what do you want to do? It's not necessarily what they need to do. It's what they want to do. Hey, let's just go play straight perfect game and PBR tournaments. That's it. Well, and those guys have done a good job of marketing, to the fact that, hey, this is how you get seen. This is how you get better because of the social media recognition and things like that. It's not necessarily true. All right. We know. So there's got to be a blend of like what they want and then what they need. So it's our job to kind of put that together. Now, like I said, first, there's got to be the development side. We have to play organized games. And these aren't the sexiest things. This is not, where we go, tee it up and try to win, a tournament or something. We're going to go play games that I'll just name a school, Virginia Tech. Okay. Right. So we'll go to Virginia Tech, and then we'll go take batting practice on the field. We'll do like a college round. We'll introduce them to like base running. We'll do situational hitting. We're doing a lot of things that you would do at a quote unquote team practice. All right. We'll take IO, and then we'll play a 9-inning game. And this is where we're able to get our guys some steady, consistent work. If I just go try to play, and that's why I tell parents too, if we go try to play nothing but championship style tournaments, I'm only going to develop maybe 9, 10, 11 kids. But if we've got 15, 16 kids on the team, I've got to have everybody, developing. So one example would be if you've got at a younger age, 14, 15 years old, and you've got a 6'4" right-handed kid that's throwing 88 miles an hour, right? But kind of sprays it, doesn't throw a ton of strikes, developing breaking ball, just doesn't like really help you quote unquote win, because he's going to spray it, he's going to walk guys, he's going to pitch in trouble. But he's the guy that needs the consistent work. You've got to run him out there consistently. Now, if I'm trying to just win, I'm going to throw, the undersized guy that's 5'9", peppers it in there, 78, 81, throws nothing but strikes, but he's a second baseman. So what am I doing? I'm developing a second baseman pitcher, and he's got no upside on the mound, for college baseball. But that 6'4" kid, who throws 88, he's the guy that's got to have that development, and he doesn't get that on, so the elite teams that are selling teams, like, hey, all we do, we only play perfect game, we only play PBR. Okay, well, look at the stats. How often did that guy pitch? He ain't getting any better, because he's not pitching, because he's not helping you win. I know you like him because he throws 88 and he's a big, tall kid, but you're not helping him. All right. So there's got to be that development side where we're getting consistent work. All our catchers are catching all our pitchers. We're moving guys around the infield. We're teaching our guys, we can stop the game. If something happens during the game, we can stop it, just like in college. This is what they do. And I know this is not like, tournament baseball where the parents can sit back and just be entertained. Like, this is not what we're trying to do. We're trying to make our kids better. All right. So we can do any of that stuff but we're also getting that next phase of that exposure. All right. So we're playing these games at college fields. We're taking the batting practice. We're doing all this stuff at college fields. So they're getting development, they're getting exposure, and they're also getting some experience, man. Dude, we're taking pictures of the guys, like it's a fun thing to do. So mom and dad, man, they can sit back at Virginia Tech. I know I just keep using them as an example. They can sit back at Virginia Tech and look at this wonderful facility. And now, guess what? You can take this as an unofficial visit. The coaches are, they're able to kind of show us around the facility a little bit. Our parents and our players can ride around, look at campus, and then obviously, after that, we've got to go play, we got to test it. What we're doing working? So we got to go play in some of these bigger tournaments. And that stuff is fun, so we get excited about that. The coaches, the parents, the players, everyone gets fired up to go try to win some sort of championship. But we can't do that every single weekend. Doesn't it kind of lose its luster? If we're trying to play for, I don't think it's right that we could be the world champ every weekend. I think that's dumb.
I agree. Oh man, I could spend hours on that topic. One of the things I would love for you to kind of share, Andy, is truly your interactions with college coaches, because at the end of the day, parents and student athletes, they're all chasing, what I call the golden carrot of college baseball. Can you just talk about that transition from the high school / travel ball ages into college, and how truly challenging it is for student athletes from an athletic and a mental standpoint, as far as that getting over that big hurdle to being an active participant at the college level?
Hang on. All right. And that was a lot of different parts. So which one do you want me to answer?
Anything about how hard it is to play in college.
Yeah, sure. Well, you got to look at it. You try to educate mom and dad and a kid on, look at the statistics. How many pitchers are actually pitching? I'm not going to name any schools now, but pick an SEC or an ACC school and look at the distribution of innings. How many guys are actually pitching? What do you do that, do you even compare to that guy? I mean, I know kids right now that are freshmen in college, they don't have an inning yet. Pitchers, they don't have an inning yet. Well, instead of like feeling sorry for yourself and going, should I talk to the coach about it? Look at the guys who are pitching. This is what I'm telling them. Look at the guys who are pitching. What are they doing better than you? They're doing something that you can't do, or something that you did really bad, right? I know you got an opportunity. You just didn't succeed in that. So college baseball, it's just getting harder and harder, especially for a high school kid. When I talk to college coaches, as far as like recruiting, they're more focused now than ever on their incoming class, because, with the portal and then, the train, all this stuff, it's really changed the dynamic of college baseball. If it's better or worse, I don't know. I don't, it doesn't matter to me. It's just like markers and crayons, man. Like we just, we're it's just tools, right? So we've got to adapt. And so now I look at it, as a parent, as somebody who helps guide a lot of people through this process, yeah, man, if they get this kid that, August 1 of this year, that's a 2025, if it works out, it works out. Awesome. If it doesn't work out, guess what? They'll go find somebody else. And what I don't think people understand is college baseball is a business. This is big money business for certain organizations. I mean, certain programs. This is their life. This is their job. It's their job to win. And that's what people don't look at. Oh, I always wanted to go play at this school. Well, that's my son. I love my son. Well, he should be able to go play at this school. No, everybody wants to go play at that school. So what are you doing better? And I think we talked about it earlier, was people just don't realize the work that it takes, the consistent work that it takes for you, the player, but you, the parent. Like you've got to be so proactive in this process. I think everyone's just relying on their coach or their team to get better. If you're going to team practice to get better individually, man, you're in trouble. Okay, team practice is team practice. It's your coach's job. He's trying to bring the team together, do some team stuff, get some reps, whatever. But if like all you're doing is team practice, man, you're going to get passed. You're going to get left behind. And like I try to preach to my own son. Like it's raining outside. Awesome, good. We're going to get ahead of somebody today. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go inside today. We're going to do this. We're going to work out this. And obviously I've got an indoor place sitting here behind me. People will say, oh, well, you've got that. Well, I positioned myself to do that. I didn't go buy a car. I didn't go buy a watch. I didn't go to that vacation. I made sacrifices to put myself in this position, for my kid. Obviously everybody else can come in here and use it, but people just, they just don't understand how hard it is, to be. Obviously you can probably get there, but like staying there is even harder. Once you get to college, like staying there, and then because they're always looking for somebody better, and people don't understand that college, that's their job. It's everybody's job. If you're the boss, you're always looking for better talent. You're looking for better employees. You're always trying to be better. And that's what these college baseball coaches are doing too, but I really think I know this is probably something you didn't really ask me, but I really think the college programs today that are really adapting to the recruiting side of things and the development side of it. I think there are some programs out there that kick ass in the recruiting side, but they don't develop. And there's some that aren't as good recruiting that do a kick-ass job of developing. I think if you look at programs, and I'll shout out like Duke, I mean, look what Duke's done. Unbelievable. Like they have taken obviously the development side to a whole new level. Look at their staff. Look what their staff's doing. I mean, Dusty Blake's the pitching coach in the big leagues. I mean, he was just at Duke not too long ago. I mean, so you think about like what schools like Duke are really doing. They're changing the game, and they're changing recruiting, and everybody else, they're forcing them to get smarter, which is great. It's good for baseball, so.
I agree with that 1,000%. What would you say the biggest difference between Dirtbags 2014 and Dirtbags 2024? What's the biggest difference in travel ball today versus 10 years ago?
I would say this sounds dumb, but maybe not dumb, but I think there's less distractions. There was less distractions then. I don't think, when you hear kids in the dugout today, they're constantly comparing themselves to somebody else.
Bingo.
Somebody, yeah, because of social media, you know, you take organizations like PG and PBR, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they hype up, you know, certain kids or whatever, or the best players. And so your good player, he's comparing himself to them. And I just, you know, I'll hear guys, you know, we'll be at a complex and I'll hear guys around the cage like, hey, did you see so-and-so just walk by? Hey, did you see so-and-so just walk by? It's like, man, you're good too. Like, what do you like? We're gonna like idolizing 15-year-olds,
Right.
you know, and that's only through social media. You know, in 2014, that wasn't a thing. And, you know, I don't want to say kids were tougher or more talented or whatever. I would say this, the training is more specialized today. I don't know what it's going to do long term for guys, but guys definitely throw harder today than they did back then. I would say guys are bigger and stronger. There is more emphasis on the weights and things like that. And that's because, again, it's through social media. You've got more and more people posting stuff about training. And there's so many people out there who are great at, you know, helping develop kids. And they're pumping out, you know, just like you are. I mean, they're pumping out information, you know, to people, to parents, to players, you know, to continue to get better. So I think the information is certainly more and abundant, but also better information. You know, the training, everyone's getting smarter today.
Last question, if you had the ability to make a change or a couple of changes that you think would benefit the sport, what would you like to see happen or change within youth baseball moving forward?
Okay, I would say, from kind of going back to your point about back in the day, it was like the teams versus the teams, you know, like the best teams versus best teams. I would like to see some of these, you know, major tournaments that have got 400 teams in it, chop them in half, you know, or let's take the best, let's rank them. Let's take your best 100 teams. I'm just whatever. The best 100 teams, put them in a tournament. And then, hey, I get it, man. Like, you've got payroll, you've got investors, you got all this stuff you got to pay for. Put everybody else in another pool. You know, the other 300, 350 teams. Let those guys go play for another championship. But like, I think it would be really good to play, you know, put the best teams together. I mean, there's obviously a ton of stuff as far as like safety and things like that. You've got these rules in youth baseball that allows these young coaches, and they don't know any better for the most part. I mean, I'm not knocking them, but they just abuse the hell out of these kids when they throw them 3-4 innings on Saturday. But as long as they keep their pitch count where it's supposed to be, then they'll throw them again 3-4 innings on Sunday. And I think, you know, remember the day it was like, oh, don't throw curveballs or sliders. So
Right.
That's not the problem.
Right.
You know, throwing a dozen curveballs in a game is not the problem. It's throwing, you know, 45 pitches on Saturday and throwing, you know, 60 pitches on Sunday every week. And that stuff adds up, you know, and especially these kids who hang out with these same coaches who are mostly parents, you know, for years, they all got arm problems. So I would love to see, you know, I know we're getting a little bit smarter with the pitch count stuff, and people are paying more attention to that. But I would love to see more young coaches, and if they're parents or whatever, of these younger kids, get more educated. I know it's baseball, so people think hey, I play baseball. You know, I already know it. Man, it's so much bigger, you know, than like what you knew when you played baseball today. And a lot of these kids have got such bright futures ahead of them. You know, all of them, their best baseball is ahead of them. So we do want to take care of these guys, you know, and continue to make it fun, keep them safe, you know, so they can play baseball for a long time.
Well, Andy, I want to say thank you for sharing all of these tremendous insights and being able to share information. And for parents, you know, it's really important for you to hear the message that Andy shared with us today as far as development, being part of a team, being part of a program. It's very, very different than it used to be, but yet, you know, on the horizon, there will be some changes, both at the travel level, but more importantly at the collegiate level, that will continue to make the sport bigger and hopefully better. Andy, thank you so much, and best of luck this upcoming season and beyond.
Hey, appreciate it, Walter. Thanks for the opportunity.